So this Republican debate was a reset button. Everybody went back to their original talking points. Trump went with, I'm going to be great on immigration. We're getting killed on trade. I'm going to do much better on trade. I'm going to get great deals. On Cuba, my answer is great deals. I'm going to get a great deal. Israeli-Palestinian issue, great deal. I am anti-Muslim. I'm a businessman. I get good deals. Oh, yeah, it's the same old talking points. But that is a great advantage for Donald Trump. So Marco Rubio went to his talking points about this country can be great again. It's the same thing you've ever heard every politician, robot say for the last 40 years. So his donors told him, hey, don't do the insults. And he's an order taker, so he took that order, and he just is apparently resigned to lose with grace. And that's what he did tonight. Cruz was not on the attack. Apparently his donors told him the same thing. He went back to his talking points. The only line of attack he did was the one that is effective, which is he gave money to John Kerry and Hillary Clinton and Harry Reid, and so vote for a real conservative. So that's what he went back to. But if we're going back to the beginning, well, then advantage Donald Trump, because these same talking points is what gave Donald Trump a giant lead in the first place that you've been trying to chip away at this whole time. So what a bizarrely wrong losing strategy by Rubio and Cruz.
And the biggest single example of that, I think, is that I don't think we heard one mention of Trump University, despite the fact that they all came out of that last debate hearing how frazzled Trump got and how he was scrambling to try to explain it, and it makes him look terrible, and they didn't bring it up. And look, once we get into winners and all that, I don't think that it was necessarily as big of a blowout in every way as we've been saying for Trump. But overall, especially for Rubio individually, this is not the strategy you want. They're all acting as if Tuesday's their day. And, let's just not shake the boat, let's not rattle anything. But that's not what needs to happen. He's still leading big in a lot of important states.
So John makes a great point. They all debated this as if they have the lead. But I got news for you, 3 of you don't. So at least Kasich I understand, because this has been the same Kasich in every debate. You know, he was a little bit more bombastic tonight with the George Bush, like you're either with us or against us. But overall, Kasich told you he balanced the budget in Ukraine and on a plane and with a goat and with a boat. That's what Kasich does.
Yeah.
So I get it. And he might win Ohio, and that might turn out to be a decent strategy in the long run, and he's never wavered from that. But Rubio and Cruz were a mystery tonight. I don't know who gave them the memo that they're winning when they certainly are not. So Trump has to walk out of there thinking, man, I wanted to play prevent defense, and these guys decided to run the ball up the middle the whole time. What a bunch of idiots.
Yeah,
Even I know that doesn't work out well for the offense.
Yeah, this debate was particularly unbearable because, Donald Trump definitely tried his best to not insult anyone. There were a few tiny little insults, sprinkled toward the end of the debate, but overall, you didn't get the usual dick talk that you could expect from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But I also felt like this debate, more than any other debate, you had Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio being the most inauthentic they've ever been, right?
Yep.
For some reason, this line stands out to me the most. At one point, they're talking about the so-called Nazi salute at the Trump rally, right? Now, I defended Trump in that case, well, his audience at least, or his supporters, because I don't think that they intended to make it look like a Nazi salute. But Ted Cruz jumps in and he says, well, we shouldn't have our supporters make a pledge to us. We should make a pledge to our supporters. And it was just so inauthentic and so fake, and it made me cringe. And the fact that anyone buys into that is just unbearable.
And I will guarantee you that the press will write that as maybe the best line in the whole debate.
Probably.
Like last night when Hillary Clinton said, I just want to be candid with you. I'm not a natural politician. Right?
I saw that quoted.
Yeah, and the Washington Post said it was the best line of the debate. It's so obviously inauthentic, but they can't see it because they got Washington goggles on.
The person who wrote that, had they ever watched a debate before?
I don't know.
On NPR this morning, that was the only thing I heard from last night's debate. There wasn't even a mention of Bernie Sanders other than Hillary Clinton was in a debate last night. And they used that exact answer and then had a female congressman on to then explain for 5 minutes why it's such a good answer and why she's such a good person. I mean, as much as you guys talk about media bias, what really hurt Sanders in this election was NPR.
It wasn't the
That's
media
really
bias, it was the
interesting.
media
It wasn't
silence.
CNN, it wasn't Fox, it wasn't MSNBC. The majority of Democrats who were voting for Hillary Clinton, between the ages of like 40 and 70, they all listen to NPR for hours a day. And if you look at who the journalists are on NPR, a lot of them are ex-Clintonites. And if you go further than that, there's almost no reporting on Sanders.
Yeah.
But I want to add one thing that unites this Republican debate with the discussion of the Democratic debate we were just having. It's amazing to me, these guys who write about politics or talk about politics, are they ignorant or are they even more biased than we realize? Because if you cover politics, how could you not know that these are all talking points? That they prepared them ahead of the debate to say, hey, if I get this question, I will answer it this way. My polling, for example, for Hillary Clinton is a disaster on trustworthiness. So let's strategize on how we're going to answer that question on honesty and trustworthiness. We're going to say, hey, you know what? I got it. We'll present it like it's, that I'm having a candid moment here and admitting a weakness and open up. Remember in New Hampshire when we cried against Obama and that opened ourselves up and that wound up helping us and we had the upset win in New Hampshire. That is clearly the conversation that goes on behind the scenes. If you don't know that and you think in the spur of the moment Hillary Clinton was like, you know what, you got me. I'm going to be candid here. Okay, you know what, I'm not a natural politician. Or you think Ted Cruz didn't prepare that line about, we shouldn't raise our hands as of you to pledge us, but to pledge you. Then you don't know anything about politics. Please retire, all of you, en masse.
So I think that there are a few different factors at play. And of course, this is just me guessing or doing an educated guess. I think that there is definitely media bias, people who just straight up support Hillary over Bernie Sanders, because think about it. I mean, an anti-establishment politician getting elected would probably shake things up for the media as well, establishment media. But I also think that, look, the mark of a good journalist is someone who questions everything, not takes everything at face value. And I think that there's a lot of lazy journalism going on where a politician says something and people don't think about it critically. They don't question it. They just take it at face value and then they write about it like, oh, that was a lovely flowery line. So that's the best line of the debate. No, you're supposed to question them and whether or not they're being sincere when they say these things.
Yeah.
I'm going to add one more thing to that. Sorry, John. It's that it shows you how bad they are at their job because they keep predicting that the standard politicians will do better in a time when we can see through the standard politicians. The citizens can. So they keep saying, man, Rubio won every debate. I mean, until recently, now they've called him a loser. But in all the earlier debates, Rubio won it. And then you would look at the polling and say, no, Rubio got massacred in that debate. Because they're like, for me, the studied politician, the one that's rehearsed, the one that's the fakest is the one that gets the highest grades. They're not getting the highest grades anymore from the voters. When are you knuckleheads going to realize that?
The only thing I really want to say in terms of the summary of this is that what we were saying the whole time, it was incredibly boring. And I think that some people watching might say, well, you guys are being hypocritical because always before when they'd make dick jokes and talk about each other's taints and shit, you'd say, well, why aren't they talking about policy? But I don't think we're really being hypocritical. We were saying it's ridiculous that they're being so crude and juvenile. They stop being so crude and juvenile, and then you realize that they're being more polite, but they're still morons.
Yeah.
And they still don't know anything about the world or other people.
I have to
other
answer.
than their
I have to
potential
say
supporters.
something really quickly. I want them to talk about policy. I love policy. But the issue is, on some cases, like Kasich, I think, thought about like Social Security, for instance. Pretty good answer there, right? But then when it comes to policy like Common Core, they don't even know what it's about,
Yeah,
right?
what
Like
it is.
Ted Cruz specifically has no idea what Common Core was about. He was asked to explain what he doesn't like about it, and he dodged the question because he doesn't know what it's about. So if you're going to talk about policy, then outline why it is you like it or why you don't like it.
And so finally, that gets to the sheer emptiness of this debate. In Marco Rubio with, this is what I want from Cuba. I want them to release all the prisoners, give us the person we want back that they're holding. I want them to have complete democracy, and I want them to send me a Cuban sandwich. Okay, yeah, I know you want those things, but that's not how negotiations work, right?
Yeah.
And so whenever you ask Trump any policy question, he knows about H-1B visas because he hires immigrants for lower wages. That's the only thing he knows.
He really was authoritative on that.
Yeah, yes, he was good on that, right? But anything else on Cuba, we're going to get a great deal. A really specifics? A really, really great deal.
Believe me.
Believe me. Okay, so this is the great emptiness of the Republican Party.